Produced in high definition by Fox 50. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight, who killed Craig Johnson? No one is talking. NC Wanted in high definition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Gerald Owens. Welcome to NC Wanted. Tonight we look at what happens when people refuse to cooperate with law enforcement. The concept isn't new, but we see it more and more in media coverage, and it's become the subject of an entire movement. In the hip-hop culture, Stop Snitching, as it's called, has its own marketing campaign, equipped with t-shirts, posters, and of course music. For some, it could be considered a way of life. Others see it as a means of survival, and for some, a way to avoid self-incrimination. Whatever the reason, this lack of cooperation is creating serious problems for investigators at every level. Tonight, we look at 3 cases that have stalled because people who know what happened simply won't talk. It's a lazy spring night in Wilson's Mills, a small Johnston County community of about 1,700 people. The only thing masking the sounds of chirping crickets is the sound of cars speeding down Highway 70. Everything changes, though, around 6 p.m. June 9th. When the sound of an assault rifle cuts through the quiet of this small neighborhood on Powhatan Road.
There were approximately 14 rounds fired that we can account for. A total of 3 houses were struck with the bullets from the drive-by. The intended house had most of the damage.
No one was physically hurt, but police insist there are far more victims in this case than the targets of the shooting.
A house to the left of that house had 1 round that hit that house, and the house to the right of it had a bullet go through a bedroom window of a child's bedroom. Anytime something like this happens, it immediately draws an uproar in the community. It changes their whole way of life. They're not able to let their kids go outside and play.
No cooperation with the police?
No, have a good one, man.
Police say when they go to the home to talk to the victims, the young men refuse to answer their questions, thus preventing them from investigating the case.
They also were very adamant about the fact that they were going to take care of this and didn't want the police department involved in it. As an investigator, it leaves us basically with nothing. If the justice system won't allow us to incarcerate them and remove them from society, then the next best thing that we can do is remove them from our town.
And his message to criminals looking for a house in Wilson's Mills is simple.
If your intentions are to move here and to create a criminal environment, don't unpack, because you're not going to be here long. We're just not going to stand by and let a quiet town be taken over with criminals who think they can come here and set up shop just because it's a quiet place that's low-key and that nobody's going to notice what they're doing.
The case never went to trial, but in this next case, justice breaks down inside the courtroom when witnesses refuse to testify.
All rise.
Calvin Nicholson, an alleged gang member, is on trial for the November 2005 murder of 18-year-old Todd Antonio Douglas. The young man was shot outside his Bacon Street home in what police say was an act of gang initiation. Court is in session when 5 prosecution witnesses refuse to testify and invoke their Fifth Amendment rights. However, the Fifth Amendment protects one from self-incrimination, not the incrimination of a peer. Still, it's all but impossible to compel truthful testimony from someone who doesn't want to talk. The prosecutor tells the judge some of the witnesses had been intimidated and admits she doesn't know what to do. Even after pressing by the judge, the men don't waver and never approach the witness stand. The judge orders an investigation into the intimidation claims, but with the case derailed, there is little else to do but suspend the proceedings. One local media outlet characterized the incident as a melee. The trial remains on hold. It's not clear whether the 5 witnesses will be compelled to testify or whether investigators ever found proof of witness intimidation.
Coming up.
A man was murdered in cold blood, and for someone to keep that on their conscience is just baffling to me.
Who killed Craig Johnson? Tonight's NC Mystery is next.
Welcome back to NC Wanted. Tonight we're looking at what happens when people refuse to cooperate with police. It's had tragic consequences in Fayetteville, where detectives have run up against a brick wall investigating the murder of Craig Johnson. He was a popular barber who was gunned down in the shop where he worked. Investigators and family members have flooded the media with pleas for information, but no one is talking.
That was one of the coldest days when we got to Fayetteville.
Because it was raining and it was real cold that morning. But we kept saying we just need to stop, slow down, and regroup. Stop, slow down, and regroup. And is it real? There were family already there. Of course, the police had already roped everything off, and we knew it was real. But it's just as clear as yesterday. I think it's just as clear as today.
Yeah.
Not even yesterday.
Less than a week before Thanksgiving 2005, a man and his 6-year-old son walk into the Lineup Barbershop on Yadkin Road in Fayetteville looking for a haircut.
Daddy, look!
They find barber Craig Johnson lying on the floor.
Sir, I need to use your phone.
They go to 3 neighboring stores before someone lets them use the phone to call 911.
Please let me use your phone, sir.
It's not a public phone.
Craig had suffered multiple gunshot wounds, and the scene indicated that Craig had made an active attempt to get away from his killer and to save his own life. Unfortunately, Craig just wasn't successful in that attempt. Craig was an active young man. Craig liked to socialize. Craig liked to have fun. By all accounts, Craig Johnson was not a violent man and typically tried to get along with everybody.
Me and Craig worked together for 5 years. I worked with him longer than I worked with any other barber. There was no animosity towards us. Now, we had our moments where, you know what I'm saying, we got upset with each other, but he was the type of person that if he argued with you that morning, he wouldn't let you leave mad.
You know, to see a person with his personality, who would help anybody, all of a sudden, life just ends.
Vernis and Linda Thomas have spent the past year and a half wondering why their nephew, a popular Fayetteville barber, was murdered. Craig had seen his share of struggle and loss. His parents died before he turned 2. He and his older brother Wayne were raised by their grandmother in Rayford. Wayne died at age 19 of leukemia. His aunt and uncle say Craig was kind-hearted, well-liked, and happy. Theories about who shot him race through their minds every night before they go to bed. And still, nothing makes sense.
And when we say the why, it's not the why does life begin and end. What gives another person the right to go in and take another human being's life and leave so many other people around devastated?
He'd come late, he'd stay late. He didn't care what time he finished up. Some people come 2 or 3 hours after closing, but Craig didn't care. He would stay and cut. As long as they was coming, he was cutting.
Talking about him cutting hair, I mean, I've never seen anybody that could cut their own hair as good as he did. You know, he always liked to give himself that little high and tight, and he could actually edge himself up in the front and the side. And I cut my own hair, and I can't edge my own, but he was good. I mean, he was a good barber. He's a good person.
Craig gives his last haircut at about 7:30 Saturday night. Police believe he's killed sometime between the last customer and midnight, and the lead detectives think it was someone he knew.
I believe that Craig Johnson was killed for a specific personal purpose. That person made a conscious decision and followed through with that decision.
Craig was a ladies' man who traveled in a couple of different social circles, but he was a very private person.
He kept his problems to himself. He wouldn't have never told me. So I guess that's in the guy's nature. I don't run and tell, you know what I'm saying, if I got a problem with somebody.
As a homicide investigator, you'd love to have a best friend, a spouse, significant other, somebody who is so close to that victim that they know everything that's going on in their life. Well, in this case, we don't have that.
In the first few weeks of the investigation, police and the Thomases hit the streets with flyers and flood the media with pleas for information. Hopes are high because Craig's murderer showed virtually no fear of getting caught. The lights were on in the barbershop and the blinds were left partially open. However, police did not expect the brick wall of silence they would encounter in the investigation.
This area of Yadkin Road is probably half a mile from the Fort Bragg gate. It is a heavily traveled roadway on a Saturday evening. The businesses around the lineup barbershop were all closed. It's in November, it's dark outside.
For it to happen during, right before Thanksgiving, one of the biggest holidays of the year.
To be thankful.
And to lose one of the most precious parts of our lives at that time, and then the way that it happened.
Months into the investigation, detectives find that no one with information is coming forward willingly. Occasionally, information will come to police through Vernus, who people feel more comfortable talking to. But for the most part, investigators seek people out, only to find they have information crucial to the case.
As a detective, it's exceptionally frustrating to find someone who has had information since day one, day two, after the murder. And when you ask the question, why haven't you come forward? I didn't think it was any of my business.
A lot of people just don't really trust the police. It's nothing against them, but a lot of people just don't trust them. Me, that's their job. That's what they do. I let them do what they do.
For folks that know certain things that might be a vital, key piece of information to this investigation, to hold on to that is just baffling to me.
The stereotypes as far as the way the police handle, African Americans, that's probably why a lot of people just don't say anything. They feel if they go and answer some questions, they might be pinned with something.
I think it is a little bit of apathy. I think that folks maybe are taking the "I'm looking out for me" attitude, maybe.
In my mind, I'm thinking, what kind of person would go and would shoot somebody? Anybody. I mean, whether it's Craig or not, I cannot understand that behavior. There is somebody walking around out there that actually took a gun and shot Craig.
You don't have to do this, man. No, come on, man.
And it's even more upsetting to even think that there could be other people out there who know who did this to Craig, that can walk around with that burden on them, knowing that a life was taken.
That's a trend that in homicide investigations we see, and we see it more and more often now. Witnesses just being unwilling to involve themselves in a case.
There has to be some consciousness of the soul that says, I need to tell it. Because again, think about if it were me. If it happened to my mother, my father, my sister, or my brother, would I not want someone to come forth? Or would I want them still around here riding around, enjoying life as if nothing has happened?
Vernis and Linda struggle for words to explain to Craig's son, who is now 12, that his father's killer continues to go free.
Something can happen in a split second that will change your life forever. And so all you can do is to pray and to go on your faith.
They keep praying that someday someone will come forward with information that will solve the case. No matter how long it takes, detectives say they won't rest until an arrest is made.
This case in particular has taught me patience. This has not been a typical investigation.
And as long as there's somebody out there with information, his son, who's now 12 years old, is also at a standstill. He'll say, have they caught who killed my daddy yet? I mean, I don't think people understand what that feels like, you know, when a young person asks, you know, have they found who killed my daddy yet? And you always have to respond, no, but the police are still working on it.
I would love it if folks would come to us with the information that they have so that we can bring a resolution to this case.
In a child's mind, when something like this goes unresolved, they immediately think that something is going to happen to them or to somebody else that they love. We need to know what happened and why it happened. And Tyron needs to know that, to be able to put closure so that he can get back to the routine of being a child and not have to worry about such serious things.
Fayetteville police haven't given up hope that someone will come forward with information about the murder of Craig Johnson, nor has his grieving family. Craig had a red Isuzu Rodeo that was parked in front of the barbershop where he worked the night of November 19, 2005. Police say other than the suspect's vehicle, there wouldn't have been another car parked in front of that business. They also want to know more about Craig's activities in the weeks leading up to his death, hoping it may lead them to a motive for the shooting. We sat down recently with Dr. Irv Joyner, a professor at North Carolina Central University's School of Law. We discussed the reasons people refuse to cooperate with police and what police and the community can do to bridge the communication gap. Dr. Joyner, first of all, thanks for allowing us to come in here and talk to you about this, what we think is a very important topic. I want to set a scenario. It's the middle of the day. A car comes rolling down the street, and a crowd of people is outside. The windows roll down, shots are fired, someone's hit. Car speeds down the street. Police get there, no one saw a thing. Why is this happening?
Well, mistrust, distrust of the police by people in the community on the one hand. Secondly, fear that telling on someone will bring retribution back to that person or family members.
This can kill an investigation.
Quickly, very quickly. And that's not necessarily the intent, primarily the intent. It certainly is the consequence of what happens.
How does it make the police department look when they have these outstanding cases?
The people in those communities really don't expect the police to come in and solve crime problems that occur with them. So the fact that the crime isn't being solved isn't necessarily something that's new. Family members and people who are connected with that person, they are upset that the police hasn't done more or that people have not come forward. But that doesn't change the view of the person typically who has that information and who has to bear the brunt or the consequences of their violating the code.
So let's say there are two shootings, one in Wakefield, one in Southeast Raleigh. Do you think the investigations in both communities would be adequate or equal?
I don't think so. The one in Southeast Raleigh would be handled with less professionalism and expertise than the one in Wakefield.
Does a black police officer have a better chance of getting a black citizen to give up information?
In these communities, blue is blue, and whether there's a white face in the blue or a black face in the blue or a Hispanic face in the blue, it doesn't change the fact that it's someone in blue. And blue is the enemy for a lot of people.
How can we improve the community?
I think first step is to improve the relationship with people in the community. And I don't think you do that as police officer, citizen. You do it on a more personal basis so that you create a bond of trust.
In a moment, we'll recap tonight's cases. Stay with us. Welcome back to NC Wanted. Let's recap tonight's cases. First, an investigation that never began in Wilson's Mills, a small Johnston County community unaccustomed to drive-by shootings. On June 9th, someone fired 10 to 15 rounds at a home on Powhatan Road. No one was hurt, but 7 people were inside the home at the time, and 2 neighboring homes were hit by bullets. The police chief says he will investigate if more information surfaces, but at this time, there is little else he can do. Also tonight, justice is on hold for Todd Antonio Douglas. He was gunned down outside his home on Bacon Street in Durham in November of 2005. Witnesses refused to take the stand in the murder trial last September. And finally, the 2005 murder of Craig Johnson, which will remain unsolved until someone with information comes forward. If you have any information on tonight's cases, call us right now at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com and click on Report a Tip. As always, you don't have to give us your name. Remember, together we can fight to preserve the quality of life we hold dear in North Carolina. I'm Gerald Owens. Good night.